Hello, everyone. My name is Monique Beaudry with Associated Engineering. I am your moderator this evening, as well as the transportation planning lead for with Associated Engineering for this intersection improvement project at Range Road and 2 Mile Hill Road. We're going to start with some introductions by the City of Whitehorse.
All right, go ahead, Stefan.
All right, yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. We're here to talk about Range Road and 2 Mile Hill Road intersection improvements. I just want to introduce the project team. So I'm here with Taylor. Taylor is the manager of engineering services, and I myself, I'm a transportation engineer at the city. And then we've been working together with Associated Engineering, and they're taking on the conceptual design for this intersection. So joining us from Associated is Monique, who already introduced herself, Haitham, who's on the other camera, and Brianna as well. So if you guys want more information about this project, I encourage you to check out the project website, whitehorse.ca/2milehill. We're also going to be publishing information on social media, and if you want some more information, feel free to contact us in engineering. And yeah, and I'm going to pass on to AE, who's going to talk about some of the technical aspects of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. With every project, there's a technical aspect that looks at road safety and collisions and things like that. But then there's also the road user element of that. And so we have public engagement because we want to have a discussion with you, the road user and local residents, to discuss what the options are to improve the intersection. And we want to consider your feedback when selecting and refining the preferred option. There's a couple ways that you can participate. One is to fill out the survey that is, there's a link to it posted on the city's website, and it's repeated here. And so with that survey, we will be summarizing all of the feedback and putting that into our final report for the city to consider when selecting which option to proceed with. And also note that we have now submitted the draft report, has been posted on the city's website. So that's a place you can look back at frequently to see if there's anything else new about this project. Next slide.
Thank you, Monique. So in this webinar, we'll go through the overall study process and what did we do in the study. It included a review for the current and future conditions at the intersection, and also based on the assessment on the current and future conditions, we developed a problem statement which described the overall issue at the intersection and a set of guiding principles to help us in developing the improvement options that we look for. The webinar will also include a description for the key features of the 3 intersection improvement options and the evaluation that the qualitative evaluation that we conducted on them to be part of the webinar for the public to provide input and feedback. So as an overall, probably most of you know the intersections or drive through it every day. This is one of the busiest intersections in the city of Whitehorse. It's 2 Mile Hill with Range Road, and it's closely spaced with the intersection of 2 Mile Hill and Alaska Highway. There's a recent development with the city operation building being completed recently, so this is one of the key intersections. This is why this study was initially initiated. So as part of the review of the intersections, and I want to refer back to the design report that is available. So the webinar will include the key information, key issues that we find, but please, for the detailed issues and detailed review of the intersections, refer to the report that is now available on the webpage. So as part of our review, we looked to the walking and cycling facilities and the intersection. And as you can see in the figure, there is a pedestrian sidewalks at 2 Mile Hill Road, at the north side of 2 Mile Hill Road, east of Range Road. At the west side, it's available on the south side of 2 Mile Hill Road. There is a separated bike pathway at 2 Mile Hill Road, also at the north side, east of Range Road, and at the south side, west of Range Road. There is a shared pedestrian and bike path at the south of 2 Mile Hill. It's kind of a staggered existing facility, and this is part of our review of what's there. Cyclists currently use Range Road for northbound and southbound movements. We are with sharing this lanes with vehicles. We also reviewed the existing transit system. So there are already 4 routes that go through the intersection: Route 2, 3, 4, and 5. Route 2 stop along 2 Mile Hill, approximately 800 meters west of Range Road. We also had a review for the future proposed transit network, which probably going to consolidate the routes into 3 routes and still pass through the intersection. We did a site visit in summer 2019. I also visited the site in the winter conditions. So the report include detailed observations and comments and issues that we have identified. Minek and myself visited the site with the city inputs on what's happening on the sites or what the conditions are. So that all details are already documented, but the webinar time may not be allowing me to go through all of the issues that we have been identified. So I will go through the key ones only. So the general safety observations, also based on the review of the historical collision data, that the rear end collision type is happening frequently on the intersections. We have almost 27 property damage only collisions in the duration of 2020-2016, with 9 injury collisions and 0 fatalities. The current traffic signal timing allows, so this is one of the key issues we documented in the report, is that the southbound left turning traffic conflict sometimes with the opposing through movement or the opposing traffic going right. Sometimes being confused if the vehicle is actually wants to go through or go right. So this is happening for both northbound and southbound directions, and this increased the potential for conflicts and collisions between these 2 movements. We also noted that some of the southbound left turning traffic actually use the outer lane rather than using the inner lane, which also increased the conflicts between the southbound left turning traffic and the northbound right turning traffic at Range Road in both directions. The overall intersection is quite large. The curves, the corners of each quadrant is large, and this generally makes the distance for pedestrian and cyclists longer and increase the exposure for risk and collisions or conflicts with vehicles due to the distance that they have to cross. We also noted that the eastbound traffic turning left also conflict with the westbound right turning traffic. This lane, there is already 2 lanes, but it's quite short lane, so people tend to use it as a 1 lane and tend to generally have conflicts. As also we have observed some conflicts actually during the site visit. The east side of the east leg of 2 Mile Hill Road is an uphill, and it sometimes can be slippery in winter, and especially with queuing. If there's queuing and there is traffic wants to go right and slip, and the other 2 lanes have faster cars, so this differential of speed with the slippery of road makes the condition for this leg not the best. The crosswalks, the lane marking that shows where pedestrian and cyclists should cross in the existing conditions, the painting is faded, and sometimes this would make vehicles doesn't really know where to stop at the intersection, blocking the desire line or the crossing of pedestrian and cyclist, as you can see in the figure, and creating kind of a maneuvering for pedestrian and cyclists to go from one end to another. Intersections corners have some obstructions, and this reduces the visibility for vehicles turning right and then being surprised by a cyclist crossing or pedestrian crossing. So this also increases the conflicts and safety issues between vehicle and pedestrian and cyclist. Specifically for pedestrian-related observations, there are some push buttons, but they are not all aligned with the pedestrian desire line at the intersections. The waiting area, especially at the northwest side and the southeast side of the intersections, are small, especially if they have to share it with cyclists. And definitely the obvious one, that the east leg of the intersection doesn't have a crosswalk at all. So somebody from the northeast quadrants want to go to the southeast quadrant of the intersection, they would need to do kind of a U movement where they cross 3 times rather than crossing 1 time because of the lack of the east side crosswalk. Also, the pedestrian pavement marking are faded, increasing also the confusion and the risk for them being noticed by motorists. Cyclist safety for the eastbound and westbound cyclists, so they are sharing, and it's a mix and match for the facilities. So there's multi-use path in a way and a separate bike path in each side. The northbound and southbound bike shares lanes with vehicles with the long distance that we discussed, and being have to share with vehicles increase the risk of side swipe conflicts with the vehicles for cyclists. So they don't have really a cross rides or facilities for them for cyclists to cross north, especially in the northbound to the southbound, northbound and southbound. So to complement all these site observations and comments that we identified at the intersection, we also did a multi-modal level of service. Typically, traditionally, intersections, we tend in the past to do only operational analysis for vehicles delay, which is the O2 level of service, which ties into how many seconds a delay a vehicle would wait at this intersection. But in this study, we considered a multimodal level of service, full level of service analysis, the detailed approach, and it's available in the report and we evaluated each single approach for pedestrian level of service and bicycle level of service and the transit level of service, in addition to the typical auto vehicular level of service. And the overall results of the multimodal level of service indicates that there is more issues with the pedestrian, bike, and transit at the intersection than the auto or delay. It's not a delay issue as much as it is a safety and operational issue for pedestrians, bicycles, and transit through the intersection. Based on that, we summarized the overall assessment of the intersection in a primary problem statement, which says that the primary problem with the intersection of Range Road and 2 Mile Hill Road is the existing safety and operational issues identified for pedestrian and cyclist interactions with vehicles movement, especially with the large size of the intersection. So this is an overall summary statement of the problem that is identified in the intersection. We also developed a set of guiding principles to help us in improving in developing the options. So we identified like 5 factors: safety, facilities, traffic, network, and transit. From a safety perspective, we want the improvements to address current pedestrian and cyclist safety issues along with the vehicle conflicts area. From a facility perspective, improve the pedestrian and cyclist movements and crossing facilities and ensure that these improvements are well integrated with the planned facilities at all approaches of the intersection. From a traffic perspective, we either maintain or improve the vehicle traffic performance at the intersection. from a network perspective to integrate all these multimodal improvements properly with the surrounding network. And from a transit perspective to incorporate all the future transit plan that goes through the intersection to improve the transit level of service at this intersection. So the option development and evaluation, we identified generic improvements and recommendations that would apply to all options, regardless of the option that we choose or recommend. These are generic improvements that need to be that are recommended at the intersection, and I will go quickly on them in the next slide. We developed 3 options to address the same problem statement that we identified, but just in different ways. So it's the same problem, but different solution or different way that address or tackle the same issue. And we developed the qualitative evaluation of the proposed option to help us compare relatively between these 3 options. And definitely this webinar and the survey that we published to get the public feedback as part of the public engagement process led by the city to discuss the options, consider the feedback, and help us to select and refine the preferred option. So the recommended generic improvements include providing permanent arrows and lane marking at the intersection. So make sure that the lane marking are the permanent ones. Provide additional arrow lane marking where needed, especially for the westbound traffic, to ensure that everybody knows where to go for each turn or each movement. Eliminate or relocate any obstruction at the intersection corners to increase visibility and making sure that all the pedestrian and cyclist crossing are visible enough for turning vehicles. Provide or relocate the pedestrian crossing push buttons or align them more with the desired line of the pedestrians. The previous point I missed that, so it's the overhead lane designation size, just replace them with larger signs and new signs to make sure that they are visible enough for vehicle motorists. Provide cyclist push buttons specifically for cyclists so it can trigger phases for cyclists and also to be aligned more with the cyclist desired lines and movements. So this for all these are all, I just want to remind that these are all for all options that I will go through them now. Provide permanent vehicle path marking. So for left turning vehicles or right turn vehicles, put additional lane marking to guide vehicles to the right lane to make sure that to minimize the conflicts between vehicles. Provide stop line signs, especially in the winter when it's not clear enough. A sign that remind drivers that there is a stop line here, please stop before this line to make sure we protect the space for pedestrian and cyclists, and optimize and update the signal timing, the phasing, how many seconds green and red for each approach. So optimize this for the intersection. And now to go through the options. So option 1 is I would say a simple option that maintain existing vehicle lane configuration. So we're not really adding lanes at the intersection at this option, but we are prohibiting the right turn on red to minimize the interactions between vehicles and pedestrians and cyclists. We're also in this option providing a separated walking and cycling crossing facilities. We're adding a new one for pedestrians at the east leg, in addition to adding cycling crossing facilities, the green one with elephant feet that is only for cyclists, that connects more with their path at the intersection. This option also include curb extension to increase the visibility. So this red extension make the vehicle slow more when making right turns. So making the visibility of pedestrian and cyclist crossing better and giving more chance for the vehicle to see them. This option also include transit priorities. So it's something in the signal controller to trigger the green phase when there is a bus coming in any approach with passengers. So it will bring the green time faster, so we minimize the delay for transit passengers.
Haitham, I'm going to interrupt you because we have a question that's very specific to this option. And the question is prohibiting right turn on red from where? All four?
All four. This option include prohibiting the right turn on red for all approaches, yes. And this would give more space for for vehicles to observe and wait for and yield for pedestrian and cyclists. Option 2 is also provide separated walking and cycling crossing facilities at the east leg and all the approaches with lane marking for both cyclists and pedestrians. And this option is making something we call the split phasing, where vehicles, for example, in the northbound, when the turn comes to the northbound, through left and right will go in the same time. And all the three other approaches have red light, so they have to wait for them to clear. Then the southbound will take the green time for also movement. So we don't have that interaction between left turning traffic and through movement. So this split phasing minimize interactions between or conflicts between turning vehicles and opposing traffic turning vehicles or through movements, and also minimize interactions with pedestrians, because we can trigger only a phase of pedestrian that doesn't interact with a left turn. So it improve also the operation and safety for pedestrians and minimize the conflicts for vehicle-vehicle interactions. This option include also adding a westbound additional a new lane at the westbound. We call it the bus queue jump, or it's additional lane that buses can use to skip the queues, and when it's green again for this approach, they will go first before the general public vehicles. This lane can also be used by westbound right turning traffic only, but they can't use it to go through. So this queue jump makes it better for transit, and we're also proposing a bus stop here to align with future Route 1 and 2. But with the split phasing that I just described for this intersection, this means that vehicles in the other approach will have to wait a little bit more, which is okay for the other approaches, but for the east approach, the eastbound approach, we find that the queues will be long enough and may impact the other intersections. So we added in this option an additional lane to accommodate these queues, so we don't have to impact any surrounding intersections. So this include actually an additional lane here, an additional lane. This additional lane can be used by it's for public vehicles, not transit. So there is another lane in the exit side that then turn into and merge into the existing 2 lanes of 2 Mile Hill. For option 3, option 3 is generally a smaller way for doing the intersection. So it's generally a smaller intersection, but also with the separated walking and cycling crossing facilities, as you can see in all direction, with the east side additional crossing. In this approach also, we had the right turn lane being at the right side of the bike lane. So there is a conflict zone here added with high visibility for bikes that is moving or going through, and the vehicles that goes. So if they conflict with the vehicles going right, this is why this option push this conflict or interaction earlier, rather than having it at the intersection. With a channelized right turn, or we call it a right turn island or a pork chop, or it has multiple names. So this right turn channelized turn eliminate the confusion between the opposing traffic if this vehicle is going right or through. This will now in this option would be eliminated, so they would know definitely that this car is going right, and they would have to yield for traffic that are using this lane. The improvement here applies also to the southbound direction. In this option, we kept the phasing as is, so it's still permitted. So people going left have to wait for through movement here and then take left. The same applies for the southbound left turning vehicles. But we added also the queue jump, the bus queue jump, that can be used by buses to skip the queues, and for traffic that going, the public traffic that going right, they can also use this lane for going right. With the new bus, with a proposed bus stop that serves future Route 1 and 2. That's for option 3, and these are the key features. So we did a qualitative multiple account evaluation so all of the 3 options generally improve the conditions compared to the existing, but we still had we are doing this evaluation to relatively compare options to each other by using a simple good, neutral, poor. Green means good, poor is red, and neutral is yellow, and compare them to each other to help us identify which one is better serving the problem statement. And the detailed evaluation of these options are available in the design report. I would not go into the details, but I will just mention the criteria that we used. It included active transportation, transit, road safety, traffic operations, geometry, winter operations, permits and approval process for such an improvement option, environmental considerations, drainage, utilities and relocates, properties and businesses if there is any property acquisition needed or any impacts to any surrounding property or business, traffic management during construction, and the order of magnitude cost of these options. That is all the content from a technical perspective. So as Menik mentioned, we're looking forward the public to complete the survey. It will stay on until September 14, 2020, and your responses will be read in detail and considered in the selection and refinement and understanding your observation or any added value that you would like to add. The official contact for anything related to this study is Taylor in the city of Whitehorse. Before we go to the questions, the plan is after we receive your comments and questions and document them and understand them, we'll finalize the report and the improvements options and select a preferred design option that will go into a separate assignment for detailed design and tendering and other subsequent stages. I think I will pass it now to Menik to moderate the questions, and I will be happy to answer any question if there's any.
Thank you very much, Haytham. That was terrific. I think you probably should flip to each of the options. I've had some questions come in for them, and I'll just read you the question, and then you can respond to it. And so the first one is, hi, I'm wondering if something can be done to address the issue of southbound vehicles on Range Road using the area on Range Road prior to the right lane, beginning on Range Road after Normandy. Normandy is the intersection to the north there. This makes turning from Normandy onto Range Road dangerous. It also makes it challenging when going north and turning. So Audrey, when I'm reading the question, it's blocking off.
I think that, so I have this figure. Is it this?
Yeah, that intersection and that area.
Okay. So the question is about the conflicts that happening at this intersection going southbound. So eastbound right turn vehicles. So this is a lane here. I think this is parking already before that. This is a lane that can be used by vehicles. But I will. Can you repeat the question again, Minik? What is the risk here or issue?
So for southbound vehicles using that area prior to the right lane, beginning on Range Road after Normandy, this makes turning from Normandy onto Range Road dangerous. It also makes it challenging when going north on Range Road and turning onto Normandy.
Can I jump in on that one, Ethan?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Yeah, so north of Normandy, it's a parking lane, and it's highly underutilized parking, which is part of the problem. So it is often open for people to jump into that, and it's quite wide. It feels like a full width of the lane. So people do often jump the queue a bit, get in there early to come through. And I see the option there is, or a solution, not so much as part of this intersection, but future upgrades to Range Road. And I could see it being a bulb out at that intersection at that pedestrian crossing. And that would better define where the parking ends, and after the intersection where that dedicated right turn lane begins.
And then I have another comment that says, one issue for traffic turning left onto northbound Range Road, the line of sight for oncoming traffic, can't see them far enough in advance due to vertical curve. And I think you've covered that, huh?
So for the eastbound left turning traffic, not being able to see opposing traffic well enough?
To head northbound, yeah.
Yeah, this is part of the issue of permitted phase. I am personally don't recommend permitted phases and people to wait on gaps, especially when it is when the intersection are next to horizontal or vertical curves. So I agree with the concern in all directions. One of the options is to make the left turn move with the split phasing. Other ways we can look to that is the protected where they have their own phase going left, but this will also impact operations generally in the intersection. So this is why we did not go to that path with having a protected left turn, and it will make the you can't use that. You'll have to stop pedestrians crossing from both sides if you would do protected left turn for eastbound and westbound. And mainly you'll have to stop pedestrians from all approaches if you do protected left turn. So based on our assessment, we focused on the pedestrian and cyclist improvements because generally the operation for vehicle are from a delay perspective is generally acceptable. So I understand that this is a conflict, but that can be solved in one of the options, but not all of them.
Okay, we're going to move on. We have quite a few questions. Next one, have you considered southbound cyclists doing a left turn onto the south side of 2 Mile Hill Road? This is a very popular route.
Southbound?
As the south side, yeah, as a southbound left. So what ends up happening is that the bicycle path doesn't continue on where it's red on the right hand side of that photo. And so have you considered southbound cyclists doing a left turn onto the south side? This is a very popular route as the south side of 2 Mile Hill is far safer than the north side of 2 Mile Hill.
So the southbound cyclist going left, they are distant to the multi-use path here. So yes, they're being considered as a movement here. They would have to use the elephant feet here and then across at the south approach to reach to the multi-use path. So yes, this movement is accommodated at the intersection improvement.
Haytham,
So,
can I add?
yeah.
Taylor here. So we are going to encourage that. That is a very popular movement here, and we're going to be encouraging that it's a two-stage left. So the safest way for those cyclists to get to that opposite corner and down the hill on the south side would be to cross southbound, button, wait for the signal to change to control the northbound, and then cross there as well, as Haytham said. But just wanted to point out that, yeah, there won't be an option for cyclists to just cut straight across to that corner.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, would updated traffic signal timing in option 2 include an advanced green arrow for eastbound left turning traffic onto 2 Mile Hill from Range Road?
No, we haven't considered advanced green or protected left turn for traffic, because the operational performance overall in the intersections for vehicles is D, level of service D, which is generally acceptable. So any advanced green arrow phases for vehicles would actually can make that operation worse than the existing. So we kept it as, so we intended to either maintain the operation for vehicles or improve with these pedestrian and cyclist improvements. But that is a purely vehicle improvement that wasn't a target in our based on our problem statement.
Okay. Yeah, and there's a few questions coming in with that same question. So for southbound traffic in option 3, how far back does the dedicated right turn lane start?
For option 3, the southbound right turn?
Yes, for southbound traffic, how far back does the dedicated right turn lane start?
No, from an operation perspective, the existing lane, which is up to the side road there, is acceptable from an operation perspective. So we did not extend that farther north. We're only using the existing lane. But this tied to the first issue that Taylor also explained, where we will be enforcing that more and making sure that this lane is without using the parking lane in the other in north of the intersection.
How much do each of the options cost? Now that's in the report, right?
The cost estimates are relatively are relative so far what is there in the design report. We are in the process of making a detailed cost estimate with the city, which is not yet available in the report. But generally, from a qualitative point of view, and as we put here, option 2 is the probably have higher cost than option 3. Then the cheapest would be option 1.
And why?
Why? Because in option 2, we are adding a new lane here and adding another lane here, and an exit lane here to receive this additional lane, which is adding to the cost. And these additional lanes are added to accommodate the queues that will make the interactions with pedestrian and cyclists safer. Yeah, so this is mainly the reason of why the cost would be higher. Right. The others doesn't really have these big changes.
Right. Okay. That That's interesting because you happen to mention about how this one accommodates some of the traffic backup, because a question that pertains to all options is what will be done to manage the traffic backup?
So our target is to, in the 5 principles that we proposed to, one of them was to address the safety and issues and improve the conflicts areas between vehicles. We did not aim to improve, and when you say queues, the only improvement that is speaks to that is the optimization. So we already run an optimization for the traffic operation, and as part of all of these improvements, we will be optimizing that, and we'll have an optimization for AM peak, midday, and PM peak to minimize the delay and queues.
Okay. Some of our participants, and thank you everyone for participating in this. I've been very pleased to see the amount of interest in this intersection. Some of the participants have been providing comments about how they feel about the responses, whether they're disappointed or like something better. And we're not going to go through those during this session. I ask that you please make sure that you put those types of comments in the survey so that we can summarize those comments. And if you've already responded to your survey and you want to add an additional comment, then you could use Taylor's email to just send an email saying, I responded to the survey, but here's some additional comments. Will you consider that, please? Because we don't have to necessarily match that up exactly with the survey you responded to. So thank you for that. There's a question. I'm not sure if Taylor should answer this question or Haytham. It's how would you enforce the no left turn on red? And you guys heard me accidentally mention City Regina. I lived there for most of my life, and we used to have no right turn on red in a few locations, so I can give a Regina perspective as well. Do you want to take that, Taylor, or do you want us to answer more generally?
Yeah, how about you go first and give your experiences on that, and I can, I'll see if I'll jump in at the end.
Yeah.
All right. So my experience in Regina is that no right turn on red was obeyed very well in a number of locations. Typically, one of the locations was related to school pedestrian safety, that when school times were out, there was no right turn on red. And another one was at a larger intersection like this that I used to actually work a block away from. And it was just something we all obeyed. And so I don't know if that is because there had been a time period where the police enforced it, but certainly a good strategy anytime you're implementing a traffic control change is to work with the local RCMP and develop a strategy to help first educate people to obey this new rule, and then eventually enforce it. And then another question. So did you want to add to that at all, Taylor?
Yeah, that was excellent. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your experiences there, where we don't have any of those in town. So yeah, anytime you're talking enforcement, we do like to take a similar approach there, where you start first with education. And it, you know, it does help. It's not the magic bullet, and of course there never is one single solution to these problems. It's a system, right? So, you know, education's a piece of it, and then of course enforcement by, in our town, of course, the RCMP has the traffic division there for enforcement, and if it was a problem, they would be the enforcers on that, I guess. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, will pedestrians actually have time to cross with these options?
Yes, all pedestrian phases will be estimated based on the speed of pedestrians to make sure that they will be able to cross these crossings.
Okay.
Can I add to that one?
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah, historically, the speed for estimating that time has been based on, I think, a 1.4, 1.5 meters per second for the pedestrian. And throughout town, as we've been getting requests for certain areas where it feels like there isn't enough time, we've looked into it. We've been using a bit of a refined speed for walkers, and we're using 1.0 or 1.1 in a lot of places now, and taking into the context of the area too. If there's a senior's home nearby or something like that, or a school, elementary school, we might even drop that more. So that's some of the considerations we make in there.
All right. Somebody asked what elephant feet are.
The elephant feet are, it's a lane marking, look like squares, and they usually put on as a lane marking to guide cyclists that this is where their area of crossing. So they usually either comes next to the crosswalk lane marking or separated, and they call it elephant feet because they just like square white lane marking closely to each other, where an elephant would, yeah, that's the name of it.
Okay, thank you. Taylor, this is a little bit out of scope of the project, but maybe you want to answer it anyways, or defer that to a separate conversation. Have you considered making a cycling path across the Keene Arena parking lot? That way cyclists coming from Range Road can go down the hill and avoid the intersection completely. And again, I would have a typical, what's typically done in municipalities, ability to answer that question if you want me to, but feel free to answer yourself.
Sure, yeah. Thanks for the input. Actually, I've never considered that. A path through the arena. It wouldn't be too hard. We do have the connection at the other end, or the east end of the parking lot, so that would be fairly easy to do. So yeah, good idea.
Oh, that's good. Certainly there would be some considerations around, so that's operated by the city, is it?
Yes, the arena is, yeah, so that's all city property.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then it would be a matter of there safely.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. This is a comment, but I think that maybe, Haitham, if you can address this concern, then it might help people get comfortable with the options. If you're doing a two-stage left, you will need a far larger landing area for the cyclists on the southwest corner. The current options will lead to a dangerous bottleneck.
Well, probably that's something that we would definitely look in the detailed design of, making sure that all the waiting areas at the corners are enlarged to match that. Yes. Once we confirm the proposed option from, this is a conceptual design report. So once we confirm that in the detailed design, we'll have to look into such details, but that's a good point. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And I've had some questions about the bike lane extending to the south.
Of Range Road?
Yeah, and I think have we covered that one?
On Range Road, I can speak to that. So we're currently in our budget request process right now. We're administratively, we're putting together our 4-year plan to bring forward to council, and that is definitely one of the projects we're considering as a standalone project to get that in as soon as possible. Is a trail from where it ends down Range Road a little ways, where the YG project range road extension tied in to this intersection at 2 Mile Hill. So, and we're actually looking at it forking around the Canada Post parcel. So you'd be, if you imagine you're coming northbound on Range Road from where the current trail ends, it would be continuing along, separated off the road. And then you would have the option, if you were heading up towards Canada Game Center, for example, you could go up in behind the Canada Post Office, or if you were heading down 2 Mile Hill, you'd want to stay right adjacent Range Road. So there'd be the options there.
Okay. Here's another one, and I apologize, we're not going to quite get to every question, but I think we'll do this one last technical question, and then there's some logistical questions that we'll do to wrap up. And so what about providing advanced crossing for vulnerable users before the cars move? That way you wouldn't be as reliant on the no right turn on red. Do you want to take that, Haytham? I think I know the answer.
So an advanced pedestrian phase without allowing traffic cars to go right. That's also possible, but if it is with the existing configuration, may impact more the operation. But we can definitely look to that also.
Okay, thank you. And the survey will remain open. I think we said September 14th.
14th, yeah.
And then after that, we'll be publishing the results, and they're asking when. We haven't set that date, but probably within a couple weeks of September 14th. But for us to provide them to the city. But Taylor, what is your intentions on publishing the results once we have them? Oh, are you on mute?
There you go. Yeah, it'll take, we'll need a little bit of time to analyze them and put them together. But yeah, the intention would be to put it up on the website in a bit of a summary report as to what we heard.
All right, you've got some fans that are making comments to you too. Come on, Taylor, get that bike pedestrian path on Range Road. You can do it. Okay, so Haytham, will you call up that next slide again, please?
Sure.
Also, there was a question about traffic counts and how can people get a hold of traffic counts. So the city supplied us with the traffic counts for this intersection through their own traffic counting program. I don't know if you want to add anything about that, Taylor. Do you make your traffic counts available on request? I don't think you publish them, do you?
Yeah, we don't publish them, but I'm happy to share any information if people have specific questions or whatnot. We do. I did see a question earlier asking about citywide traffic data, and we do have we do collect counts at all the major intersections and some of the arterials and whatnot. So we do have that information, and happy to share it upon request.
Right. And how much of an impact will the survey results have on the final decision? And what else is included in the decision criteria? So Haytham, you could maybe go to that nice colorful slide we have. That one. And so all of the criteria that will be considered, or all of the technical criteria that will be considered, are these things that are listed. Whether it makes improvements for active transportation, transit, road safety, traffic operations, etc. We've done that assessment already, and so you can see in the green are where we like things the best. And so, for example, options 1 and 2 are best for winter operations, and it's more neutral for option 3. And traffic operations is the one related to the vehicle delay that I've seen some interest in on the on the chat. And so options 2 and 3 are better for moving traffic than option 1. And so then the public feedback on the options will be one of the considerations that we look at in addition to these comments. And the last question I think that we'll squeeze in here is related to snow removal in the winter when you're using high visibility markings, and will they be visible in the winter? And Haytham, do you want to take that?
It's definitely it is definitely a challenge when it's winter and night. So we in the detailed design stage will also look to what other signage that need to be placed to support and complement the lane marking, and how motorists are reacting to that. So that's a good point, and it will be considered further in the detailed signage plan and lane marking plan in the detailed design.
Awesome, thank you.
Pardon me? I'll just add to that, Haytham, that so 2 Mile Hill, as people know, it is a priority 1 road. So as soon as it snows, that's one of the first roads that we're hitting for snow clearing. So it's actually not covered with snow for very long, very often in the season. So I wouldn't say that they would have the high visible markings would have no effect in the winter. I would say that they would be quite effective for that. Just share that with the folks.
Yep.
All right, thank you. So it's time for us to wrap up. We had set this webinar for 1 hour, and so I thank everyone for your participation. I love the enthusiasm and all of the questions that you sent in. And a reminder to please document your comments in the actual online survey, because that ends up being the permanent record of the public engagement process. And so have a good evening, everyone.